Hello, welcome back. This lighting is horrible. The sun was here and shining and now it's gone. So I'm sorry. I have a desk light kind of acting as a ring light. I'm here to do my April and May wrap up. And this one's going to be a little different because it's been tough, y'all. It's been tough to film content and make content. It's been rough. Shit's been rough. I'm dealing with some, not injury, but more like preventative care with my running stuff. I have some calf issues I'm working on. And then another type of health issue has bubbled up that I'm a little concerned about, but I'm not gonna go into it here. There's a lot going on in the noodle besides this and reading. But I did read a fair amount of books in April and May. And I also had a fair amount of DNFs, which I will start off the video with. And the majority of them are just because they were just not the book for me. I don't think there's anything wrong with them. So if you're new here, all my wrap-ups are spoiler free. I don't go into any type of spoilery content in the book unless I give a warning beforehand that you can skip over. But I try just to talk about how I feel about the book and what certain moments in the book meant to me and how it made me feel and the general vibe of the book. Like something you could glean within the first few chapters or the first 100 pages or in the flap of the book. So just putting that out there. If you are sensitive to spoilers, you should probably reconsider watching any wrap-up video. Sorry, just my opinion. But I will, again, keep this as spoiler-free as possible. But I want to go through my DNFs first, because there, unfortunately, was quite a few. I'm gonna start off with one that pains me so much, because I have really loved this author. But I think we may have grown apart. I think me and Miss Sally Rooney have grown apart because I unfortunately DNF'd Intermezzo. I'm not going to go into the plot out of all of these because we have a lot of books to get through. It's not how she writes. It's not that she doesn't use quotations because I've mentioned that before. That doesn't bother me. I read 150 pages and I put the book down and I didn't want to pick it back up. And I'm trying to be more diligent about DNFing books I'm just not vibing with. I'm sorry, Sally. I love how you write about relationships and people and grief, but I don't know if I don't know if this is for me anymore. I mean, the last book that she wrote was in 2022, 23? No, it was before. Anyway, I enjoyed that one, but I don't really remember a lot of it. I love Normal People. That will always have a mainstay on my shelf because I think it's just beautiful and breathtaking, and I have very strong emotions and like flashback moments of me being alone during the first few months of COVID and reading Normal People and then watching the show because it was around the same time. And like, oh, so good. But I just unfortunately think that we've just grown apart and this isn't what I really want to read anymore, which I hate saying, but here we are. But that was one DNF. The other DNF is purely, I just don't think this author or their writing style is for me, which is a bummer. Oh, I should probably also say I started 2 separate blogs in May and I threw the towel in for both of them because they just weren't going anywhere, and this book was part of I was gonna do like a post-apocalyptic blog, but honestly both those books, man. Anyway, that book is Hell Followed With Us by Andrew Joseph White. This is following a trans boy Benji during this post-apocalyptic event, but this is YA horror, and that's probably another strike against it. I just don't know if I want to read YA horror. I don't know if that's the horror that I'm really leaning into. I read about 70-80 pages and something was just not clicking for me with the writing style and the dialogue characters. Like the pacing felt weird and I didn't really understand what was happening. And I know a lot of people love this book, so none of this is to dissuade you from reading this if this sounds interesting. I just could not. I couldn't get into it. I'm sorry. And then I did DNF. Also, I know this book is very, very popular, and I should have known better that this book wasn't going to work for me. And that book is Bright Young Woman by Jessica Knoll. This is like a fictional reimagining of the women surrounding the Ted Bundy case, primarily what happened in Florida. You're following one perspective and then another woman's perspective. I just don't think the nonfiction fiction story within a story is for me. I just got a little annoyed with it because I do unfortunately know this case pretty well, and I don't understand why some details were changed but others weren't. It didn't really make sense to me. I didn't get that far. I got like almost 200 pages in, but I know a lot of people love this book and don't mind that type of writing style, but for me, I just think I need to know I should know going forward. Those types of stories just aren't going to work for me. And the last DNF I have was a real big bummer because I haven't read one graphic novel this whole year. Just haven't gotten into anything. The book is Clementine, book 1. It's a spin-off of the Walking Dead, the Telltale Games series, which I loved and played through. And this is following one of the main characters from that, Clementine, who's a young girl, and she's a little bit older. It's YA graphic novel, just following her after the events, or some of the events from the game. And it's illustrated by Tilly Walden, who I really love as an illustrator and graphic artist. I don't know what it was. I don't know if the characters or the story. I just was like not having a good time, and I got a few ways into that, and I was like, I don't care about any of this. I don't care how it plays out. I still love Tilly Walden. I'm gonna pick up her work. This just, for whatever reason, some marriage there just wasn't working for me. I'm gonna get into April reading, which I didn't vlog any of these books, but I'll go into that in a bit. But I did have an ARC blog planned, I had a post-apocalyptic blog planned, and then I did my mood reading blog, which I'll get into later, but nothing was working in April. Nothing was working. But something that did work, I read this book in one day. And I loved it. I inhaled it. It's my first time with this author. And that is Wild Dark Shore by Charlotte McConaughey. Oh my god, this was so good. Wow. I loved all of this. I loved all of this so much. Oh my god. This is following a family, the Salt family. Dominic Salt, and he has 3 kids. 2 are teenagers, and he has a younger one, Orly, who's like 8 or 9. They are caretakers of this seed vault somewhere like around Antarctica. It's fictional, but the island is fictional, but it's based on a real seed bank. Because of climate change, the sea levels are rising and they need to move the seed banks. So Dominic and his family are the last inhabitants on the island, packing up the seeds, waiting for their boat to get there in a few weeks. And one day, a woman washes up on shore. No idea how she got here in the middle of nowhere on this island. Each chapter of the book is a different perspective of the children, Dominic, and then this woman, Rowan. And each of them has a secret. Each of them is hiding something. Each of them have a lot of grief and shame tied to their secrets. And I just love how the story and the characters and the plot all unfolded until the climax. Like, oh my god. You could not have ripped this book out of my hands on the couch just reading, and I would be like, every now and then Lucas sitting next to me like watching TV, and every now and then I'd be like, oh my god, oh my god. This is my first time reading Charlotte McConaughey, and I got Migrations too that I really, really want to read, but I highly recommend Wild Dark Shore. I think all the praise you are hearing is justified. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. I read it in one day. This is the second time that's happened this year. Monstrelia was the other, but it's okay. And then I read a book that I don't know. I'll go into this in a bit. I am going to talk about one book I did read in my May blog just because it's the same author. And this book, and the author is Mayfly by CJ Lead. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about Mayfly. So Mayfly is pitched as a female version of American Psycho, but with like a Disney flair. And what I mean by that is Maeve works, they don't ever say it, but she basically works at Disneyland, and she's one of the Frozen princesses. She's very like misanthropic and like dark and edgy when she's outside of that job. Her best friend who she works with, her brother arrives in town, and he awakens something in her that she's not really used to, and they have like this kind of tension throughout the novel. I could not stand Maeve. I could not stand her. I thought she was so insufferable. I haven't felt that way about a horror character in a long time. I almost like didn't finish the book, but it did turn into more of a splatterpunk extreme horror towards the end, which I actually really liked. So I liked the horror in the book. I just couldn't stand Maeve as a character. I could not stand her, and I thought the ending was very predictable. I gave this like 3 stars. I thought it was fine. However, the other book, which I read in my May mood reading blog, I'm skipping ahead a little bit because it's the same author, but I read American Rapture. This was also going to be a part of the post-apocalyptic blog, and then it just fell apart. But I actually like this less than Mayfly, which stinks because I do really like post-apocalyptic a lot. And this sounded so wild and up my alley, but it's about a young woman, Sophie. She's like 16, almost 17. She's very, very sheltered. Very strict Christian upbringing. She's not allowed to watch TV, have a phone, read books that aren't approved by her, read the newspaper. She's so under a rock that she doesn't even know that there's this viral outbreak that's been happening very similar to COVID, but there's a mutation that if you get the mutation in this part of the sickness, you become feral with lust. From her perspective, like the POV, the book being in her POV for this was such an interesting choice, awesome choice. But then it just kind of got a little drawn out. It's almost 400 pages. It started off like really interesting, and I like post-apocalyptic where a lot of it's them trying to survive, not so much some supernatural or zombies happening, which is just like more of like an infected. Think of like the 28 Days Later zombies, but make them, instead of infected with rage, they're infected with rage but also lust. So horrifying. It's set in Michigan, and she's like trying to go across all this stuff and survive and try and find her brother, her twin brother, who they were separated. It just got a little drawn out and a little too bogged down, and I talked about it more in that video, and I'm not going to go into it here because it is a spoiler, but there is an aspect of this book that I probably should have seen coming, but was so horrific and traumatizing. It's probably not what you're thinking of if you haven't read this book. I should have looked up trigger warnings because it was awful. It was awful. And the author's note explains why she goes into what she did, but I don't vibe with it. It's not something I really don't like in books, and horror. Doesn't matter. So yeah. And then, yeah, the ending was not great. So I just don't think me and CJ Lead are compatible horror besties, even though I wish we were, because I think she has great ideas and obviously loves horror. But no, I don't think she's the author for me. So that was a big old bummer. The next two books were arcs that I was filming for an arc video, and then, yeah, didn't happen. One of the books I read for that arc video was Sky Daddy by Kate Folk. I've never read a book about anything like this. This is about a woman named Linda who is sexually obsessed with airplanes. She thinks it's her destiny to marry one of these airplanes, and what she means by marry is to die in a plane crash where they're united for life. So she's had this infatuation for a very long time. Nobody knows about it. She keeps a very low profile, no dating, obviously, who can match up to a plane. And I did love that in the book, that how she describes the plane, like she's describing like a guy that she sees on like Tinder. And that was really funny. For such a weird premise, let me look at my review. It was such a like very bubbly, bizarre story. It was as weird as you would expect about a woman who is in love with planes, but I wanted it to be weirder. I wanted to lean into that more because she was the only character I enjoyed in the book, and the other characters, like, I just thought they were just kind of not really fleshed out, or like kind of like fodder, like not really. I didn't feel like they were very important, or as important as the author probably wanted them to be. Overall, I thought it was just fine. I don't know if I was expecting something more memorable, but I am positive the story's not gonna stick with me. And that's shocking considering the subject matter. So that's Sky Daddy. And then, thank God, the next arc I read was quite the banger. I loved it. I loved it. Wow. That was Bat Eater and Other Names for Corzang by Kylie Lee Baker. This was so good. Holy shit. I loved it. This book is set very early on in lockdown. I think it opens when it's March 2020. And Cora and her sister Delilah are in a train station waiting for their train that's been delayed. They don't even know if it's going to come. When the train finally does come, this is the very first chapter of the book. It's in the flap of the book. It's not a spoiler. Someone pushes Delilah in front of a train and Cora witnesses it. She doesn't see the guy, but she does hear what the guy says when he pushes her, and he says Bat Eater. And that's the very beginning of the book. You fast forward months later, and Cora is now a crime scene cleaner, which I think for most people would be a very traumatizing, horrifying job, but for Cora, she's already seen the most traumatizing and horrifying thing in her life. I loved Cora, and I loved her crime scene cleanup crew. Like, I love the three of them so much. The three of them start to notice a pattern in the crime scenes they're cleaning up, that they're all murdered Asian women. Cora starts to feel a presence watching her, something following her, something messing with her. She can't sleep, she can't eat. All she can do is work, and it's starting to consume her life, and she wants to get to the bottom of why this is happening to her now. And it's on the eve of Hungry Ghost Festival when the gates of hell open. So all of that, this underside of New York, the darker times of COVID when there was so much uncertainty and the isolation, and Cora she's such a character you want to root for, and you want her to get to find help and peace with what she is experiencing emotionally, mentally, and physically. It combined so many great aspects of horror, like this creepy, mystical horror and thriller, and Kylie Baker laid all these like horrific pieces on top of this very real commentary about the state of racism, prejudice, and hate, and primarily the hate and violence that was directed towards Asians during COVID, before and after, but it was really bad during those times in COVID. One complaint, and that was only that I wanted to spend more time with Cora and her cleanup crew. That was the only thing. It's like I wanted more of those moments, but I love how it was executed. I love the story, the characters. This is one of my favorite horrors that I've read this year so far. I highly recommend it. I'm going to get a physical copy very soon. All right, and then let's see. I'm gonna try really hard not to cry talking about this. I'm shocked this didn't put me in some type of reading slump. I think it kind of did, but I pivoted and read something really short afterwards, but that's neither here nor there. That book is The Burning God by R.F. Kuang. This is book 3, and the final book in the Poppy Wars. And since this is in book 3, I can't really talk about it without... I'm trying not to cry. Like, this was the first fantasy series I read this year, like all the way through. I'm trying not to cry. R.F. Kuang, you horrible person. I don't mean that. I think you're an amazing writer. Holy hell, you are such an amazing writer. This is a military-inspired fantasy, and you're following mainly Ren, who in the first book comes from a very poor town, and she passes a test that admits her into Sinigard, which is a military-based academy, and Ren discovers she has some abilities. I wouldn't say blessed with, but that would probably be... I wouldn't necessarily say that, but you're also following her classmates, Katai, Necha, Vinka, them as they're like pretty much children the first few years of them being at Sinigard, and then the Poppy War breaks out. The brutality of this book, the brutality of war on both sides, as well as civilians face, not even what Ren and her classmates face as soldiers. And seeing like so much awfulness. This is a heavy ass series inspired by real events that happened in China's history. Do not go into this lightly. Check trigger warnings if you have sensitivities, because it is a heavy, heavy series. But I loved it. I loved Ren. And Ren is such a... Put this down. Ren is such a hard character to root for, but to also be mad at. Before I read The Poppy War, I hadn't really experienced a character like Ren. To see her journey, as well as Katai and Necha, throughout all 3 books, and what they all go through, was so masterfully done by R.F. Kuang. And, oh man, these books are just gonna hold such a strong place in my heart because of all the emotions I went through reading these books. I had tears coming out of my eyeballs. So much tears because of this book. Oh my god. Highly recommend The Poppy War. Prepare yourselves as you pick this book up, but I think all of it is so good. And I understand why this is so popular in the fantasy community. It is so well done. And then I read another fantasy, a very short novella, and I annotated the crap out of this book. Thank God book 2 is coming out in a few months because I need more Veronica Roth. I need more. And that is When Among Crows by Veronica Roth. I have not read Veronica Roth. I know she did Divergent, which I don't know why. I guess never got into that series. Slavic folklore-inspired urban fantasy set in Chicago. You're following a man called Dmitri. You're following Dmitri through this other reality of Chicago, pretty much, like this magical spiritual world. Dmitri is some type of soldier, and you don't know what he is really at the beginning. He's someone on a mission. He's someone on a journey. At the beginning, he picks this mythical flower called a fern flower. He has this flower who he wants to trade, and for the trade, he wants to help finding the mythical witch Baba Yaga. And then there's another character named Allah who is a Zamora. I mentioned it in I think my indie book crawl haul because I picked up one of the Witcher books that is very much inspired by Slavic folklore. And like I knew what some of these were because I played The Witcher. Like some of these folklore creatures are because of The Witcher. So that was really fun. But you're following Allah, who is a fear-eating Zamora, and she has this curse that's slowly killing her. And she's so desperate that she decides to help Dimitri. Against her feelings or better judgment, she decides to help them. And this is all over the course of one night as they try and find Baba Yaga. I love this. I could not put it down. I read it so quickly. It's so beautiful. It's so beautifully written. I was bummed that this was a novella because I could have kept reading for another 300 pages. And book 2 is coming out, I think, in August, called To Clutch a Razor, which I think you're still following the same characters. This is a beautiful book and a beautiful story, and it made me smile. It made me tear up. I loved it, loved it. One of my favorite fantasies I've read this year. And then I read a book that I feel like I've seen everyone read. I have some thoughts about it, but I don't know how much I can talk about without spoiling the hell out of it, but I'll try. I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Hartman. This is a dystopian novel. I think it was written or published in 1995, and I've heard about it the last few years, and I finally got around to reading it. Again, another novella. This book is following a group of 39 women who are imprisoned in a cage underground, and one of them, who has no memory of life before the cage, she's the youngest. She was a child when she was there, like very young, like a toddler. And all the women vary in age and what they were doing before all of this. The young girl is the most frustrated out of all the women. She wants all the answers. She wants to know about life before, and no one wants to talk to her. No one wants to tell her because they don't really see the point because they've been in prison for so long. But it's all through her perspective, and she starts to try and figure out a way they can escape. And that's all I'm gonna say because it's a short book. This book, I would say, is distinctly in 3 parts. I don't know. I gave this 4 stars. Something, maybe it was like in the middle part, I thought was like not that interesting. As the first and the last part. Damn, this book is bleak. Oh my god. Damn, is like there any happiness in this book? Like when I read it. Then that last page, like, was a gut punch. Oh my god. That changed immediately how I felt about the rest of the book by the last page, which is crazy to say. My attitude towards the book changed so much from like the last couple pages. While I say it's very bleak and dark, there is also a lot of hope and resilience in these women and the situation. It's very thought-provoking. I think this would be an awesome book club book because I would love to know how it made other people feel. And like to talk about that in a group, I think would be really interesting. Yeah, I really liked it. It wasn't a new favorite for me like it has been for a lot of people, but I did really like it. I'm going to keep it. I'm probably going to reread it now that I have like some more thoughts around it. I Have Never Known Men. Oh yay, this one's gonna be fun! The book I'm gonna talk about, I'm really excited to talk about. My very dear friend is the author, and that book is Still Chosen by Stephanie G. Olson. This is so good. It made me feel all very sweet, cozy feelings. This is following Phoebe, and when she was 16 years old, she died to save the world, the fantasy world that they're in. But she survived, came back, and so that's at the very beginning of the book. 20 years later, she has been ruling her kingdom. Like, she's really bored. She's finds like some excitement party planning. She's very type A about it. Other than that, she's very like, she's gotten really about court life. She's grown out of touch with her friends. Things are just kind of meh. And then a messenger from her youth when she defeated the Dark Lord comes back to tell her that he may not really be dead. And thus starts the rest of the journey of her hunting him down. But Phoebe knows she is the chosen one and the only one who can defeat him. So begrudgingly starts off on this new adventure. Older, wiser, her knees ache. It's a little bit harder. I love the found family aspect of this, as well as this bunch of people, let's go on a quest fantasy. There are stakes. There are some high stakes, but it didn't feel like overwhelming. Like, it was, I would say this is more of like a cozy read. And I laughed a lot, like the banter between Phoebe and Mercury, the divine messenger, Mercury, who's this guy. was so good and sassy. And that was really fun. It reminded me a little bit of Brandon Sanderson. I've not told Steph that, so if you're watching, it reminded me a little bit of Brandon Sanderson, like the humor in it, because I've only read Trust the Emerald Sea, which I loved, and like there's some harkenings to that type of banter and humor, which I really enjoyed. So if you like fantasy that has an older protagonist, thank God. I'm reaching Phoebe's age right now in the book. It's just refreshing. Like, there's not every fantasy book this intense plot. This 16-year-old who just has the key to everything and knows exactly what to do. I like the turn of this. I like the older protagonist. I like the journey that Phoebe goes on in this book. And she was the chosen... I can't say that. She was the chosen one when she was 16. And like the questioning of her feeling like she can still do this at an older age, and her worth as a woman as an older age too. It was very, very sweet. There's a lot of like heartfelt moments and like character development and dynamics. Like, it was just really fun. Great job, Steph. I'm so proud of you, and I can't wait to see what you do next. All right, and the last grouping of books I did read in my mood reading blog. I did talk about American Rapture, but I also read in that blog the Murderbot Diaries. This is volume 1, All Systems Read. Very quick little read. This was a lot of fun. I was so curious because I'd heard so much about it, and I knew the show was coming out on Apple TV, so I wanted to at least try it, and I really liked it. I downloaded book 2 on my Kindle, Artificial Conditions, so I'm going to read that too. I'm not going to go into all these because I talked about a lot in that blog, but this is following Murderbot, who has hacked his own government module and just wants to be left alone to watch his sci-fi soap opera and figure out who he is. And in typical sci-fi fashion, the group that he is working with as their security bot, who don't know that he has hacked his system, he's keeping that very secret. He doesn't want anyone to know because he doesn't want to be turned off. They are sent on this mining surveying expedition, and he is their security bot. There's supposed to be another team there, but that team has gone dark. And so they go to investigate, and that's all I'm going to say because it's a novella. But super fun. I loved being in Murderbot's head. It's really funny and sweet, and a lot of conversation about what it means to have a conscience and be human. It was great. I really liked it. I've been craving sci-fi, so this is really like kicking that off. I want to read more, but that is All Systems Read. And then I read from the romance queen herself. I read Great Big Beautiful Life. I gave this 3.5 stars, and I've seen much lower and much harsher reviews of this book. I agree with some of what people have been saying, but this is about 2 writers, Alice and Hayden, who get a notice from this socialite who has been out of the public eye for a very long time, and they are contacted to write her memoir, and they're given 1 month to convince her one of them should be the one to write her memoir. And the book goes between Hayden and Alice and their romance and banter, because it's an Emily Henry book, duh, there's romance and banter. And when Alice is interviewing Margaret and finding more out about her life and her story throughout the book. And it's set on this little island off the coast of Georgia. I 100% agree with everyone who says the story part of this is boring. I'm sorry. It's so boring. I don't know why it is written the way it's written, because it's a lot of... I go more into it in the vlog, but it's like the Too Long Didn't Read version of her life. Like, she's just talking about them to Alice, but there's not really flashback moments, if that makes sense. Like, the comparisons to Evelyn Hugo, I don't feel like hold water, because I feel like Evelyn Hugo, those flashback moments were so lush and fleshed out, and you were so transported. But in this, they were just like, it was just like Alice and Margaret talking to each other across from each other, and it was so boring. So that stinked. But like I want to say the last 20% of this, I loved. I did get a good helping of Emily Henry's banter and romance. I just wanted more of it. I applaud her for trying something different. I wish this had been a new favorite, Emily Henry, but yeah, mostly good for me. I don't understand why people are like completely trashing this book. I don't think it's that bad, but I do understand like people's complaint about the story side. Okay, and the last 2 books I'm here to talk about are my newest obsession. I am fucking obsessed with these books, and that was a goal of mine this year, is to become obsessed with what I've been reading. And I found it, and it's all thanks to Matt Dinneman. I read Dungeon Crawler Carl. I loved this, and I immediately read book to Carl's Doomsday Scenario, and I have book 3 and book 4 right there, which are on deck to be read very soon. I'm just going to talk about book 1. Book 1 starts off with Carl, who is outside in the cold in nothing but boxers, pink Crocs that were his ex's, don't fit him, and this leather jacket. And he's outside because his ex-girlfriend's prize show cat, Princess Donut, is outside and he's trying to bring her back inside. While this is happening, the world decides to end. The apocalypse starts. And Carl and Princess Donut are thrust into this dungeon-like game experience that is put on by this alien race that has just destroyed the planet. Sucks, right? So Carl and Princess Donut are basically trying to survive and get their bearings and what is going on. They are now in a televised game show that has them survive dungeons, a lot of them. Yeah, it is a lit RPG. I'm gonna explain a little bit. So an RPG role-playing game is my favorite type of video game to play. Like, you build your class, you build your experience point, you build your stats, you build a very unique, specific character of all the stuff that you want. Like, if you want to focus in dexterity, or you want to focus in strength, or you want to focus in magic, that type of dealio. So this book is written a lot like that. So if you love video games and love RPGs, I think you're gonna have a really good time with this. I definitely had an amazing time with it. I'm obsessed with it. I think it's so funny and so just addicting. It's like crack. Like, I was so, like, when I was reading these, I was locked in. Like, I am so obsessed. I do not understand the complaint. Because I've read a couple of reviews that say this is repetitive, I couldn't get into it, it's the same thing over and over again. I'm like, have you f***ing played an RPG before? Like, you are grinding a lot of RPGs. You are grinding to get up to a certain level at a certain point where you can go fight more and get more experience and get more stuff. So this is my opinion. This is my opinion. But the haters of these books haven't played RPGs or don't really have an understanding of lit RPG. This was my first time reading a lit RPG, and I'm so addicted. I want to read more now. I'm not saying this channel's going to become the lit RPG channel, but I've had a taste and I want more. So I'm going to continue this series. I hope the rest are as amazing as these 2 books, because this is the most fun I've had reading a book all year long. But that's everything I've read. I've been yapping for a long time. Yap. So I'm gonna wrap this up pretty quick. Have you read any of the books that I talked about during this wrap up? Let me know down below. What did you think? Do you agree with me? Do you not? I would love to know down below. What is your favorite book that you read in the month of April and May? Also, let me know down below. I would love to know. As always, thank you so much for clicking. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll have a new video for you soon. Bye!